It is a huge honor for me today to be podcast interviewing Dr. Hagi from Ontario, Canada. Toronto, Ontario, Canada.
Nice to be here with you, Howard.
And I'm in Phoenix, and you and I, our cities both have the same baseball stadium, and they both have a retractable roof, and yours is because it's too cold, and Phoenix is because it's too hot. You have a retractable roof with heaters, and we have a retractable roof with air conditioners.
Is it always open?
Yeah, they leave it
Yeah.
open to air out and grow the grass and all that stuff, and then they close it up in the morning for the game and cool that baby down.
Nice.
It's absolutely beautiful. So you're with the let me read your bio. Educated at the University of Toronto Faculty of Dentistry, Dr. Hagi has a focus for minimally invasive aesthetic dentistry and metal-free oral implant rehabilitation. Dr. Hagi is a fellow with the International Congress of Oral Implantology, Academy of General Dentistry, International Academy of Dentofacial Aesthetics, and Associate Fellow of the American Academy of Implant Dentistry. The Thornhill Smile Center, Dr. Hagi's private practice, is located in Thornhill, Ontario, and is a leading dental center of the world, LDCW. Along with the Center of Excellence in Implant Dentistry, the Education Center, Dr. Hagi brings excellence in dental care and dental continuing education. Dr. Hagi is an international lecturer, published author, and consultant to several dental manufacturers, and I was so excited you accepted my invitation to speak because you're you could talk to 100 implantologists in a row and ceramic implants wouldn't even come up.
Absolutely.
And so how did you switch from titanium to ceramic? When you were little, did you fall down and get hurt by titanium, and you have some leftover childhood scar from titanium that made you go ceramic, or is this just part of the ongoing aesthetic revolution for the metal-free practice?
So let me dive back into how I started with implants. So I started my studies with Dr. Carl Misch, who you had here a couple of months ago, and he had a podcast with you. S1 was a change in my life.
S1.
S1, so the first session, the treatment planning session.
Oh, okay, with Carl.
Yeah. And that changed the way I looked at dentistry, and I started doing the surgeries. And it wasn't until about 5 years later that you start seeing the complications of what happens with titanium implants, prosthetic complications, the peri-implant disease. And I really wanted to see what else was out there. And then there was Facebook. And you see these guys posting cases on Facebook with implants out of Europe that are not titanium. And this fascinated me. I looked at what was going on in the rest of the world, and then I discovered this material called zirconia. And people are doing implants with it. And the results just blew me away. And since that time, we started placing ceramic implants. It's been about 5 or 6 years now. And it's been a transition for me, going from everything titanium to now the majority of our implants are ceramic. We're probably the #1 dental clinic in North America, certainly in Canada, placing these types of implants with tremendous success. So that's really been my voyage through implantology to where I got to be playing with ceramic implants now.
So, everyone thinks ceramic is strong because if you put a ceramic plate tile on the ground and have an elephant stand on it, it holds it, whereas if you put them on plastic, it would deform it. But if you drop plastic Tupperware, it bounces, and if you drop ceramic, it shatters. What is the difference in fracture rate of a ceramic implant versus titanium? Because wouldn't titanium have a little more flexibility, less fracture, or not so much?
Absolutely. But the interesting thing is that if you look at a titanium implant, now all titanium implants on the market are two-piece. And what I'm doing is one-piece ceramic. So a two-piece titanium implant, you got to look at the weakest link in this. And the weakest link is that interface, the abutment to the implant. And look at the screw that's holding this thing together.
The screw would be the weakest link, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. It's a tiny, tiny little screw that's holding everything together. And in the studies, Misch had studies in the late 90s comparing the strength of among all implant types and geometries. And if you look at those studies and you compare the numbers to the ceramic implants that we are using, it's about 2 to 3 times stronger to compare the same size in ceramic versus titanium as a complete structure, so the implant and the abutment. I haven't seen any fractures in my practice of these implants. I've seen plenty of fractured abutments, screws, and implants in titanium. So if you compare one against the other, at least in my experience and also in the literature, you see that there's way more fractures in one material compared to the other.
Well, if you go on Dental Town, I mean, you know how many threads there are on how to get out a broken screw.
Absolutely.
I mean, I mean, you could write a book on that. In fact, I'm on my app now. I'm doing the search broken screw, and oh my God, it just broken screw to implant hybrid denture, broken screw and implant, removing a broken screw and abutment, help, broken screw, 3.0 Astra, broken screw, 3i, broken screw. I mean, it just goes on forever. So you're saying the main advantage is the ceramic zirconium is a one piece, and the titanium implants, the weakest link is that tiny itty bitty little screw. And that one piece zirconium ceramic implant is 2.5 times stronger than that little screw. Did I hear that? Did I summarize that right?
Yeah, it's 2.5 times stronger than that entire complex together. Because you get titanium implants fracturing as well. You get the implant fracture because you get a thin implant with very thin titanium walls. And you see very often, well, very often is, I mean, in my practice, I see very often fractured implants that need to be removed. So it's interesting that we look at metal and ceramics and we assume that because it's a metal, it's stronger. Because it's a metal, like you compare it to a metal plate and or a ceramic plate and a metal plate, you drop one breaks, you drop one, it bounces. But when we're talking in the mouth, it's a completely different ballpark. And we do have one-piece titanium implants. So these have been on the market, but I don't know anybody that uses them because they don't look like teeth. So with the ceramic, you get a white implant, one piece, that is healthy for the gums, is strong, and it looks really good.
Now you're probably placing a lot more implants than Americans since your national pastime is hockey. Uh, so probably, do you have anyone in your family that has their upper front six teeth, or they just all have that hockey smile?
Oh no, we're not really into hockey, but everybody's got their front six teeth.
It is just so funny watching the Phoenix Coyotes and whenever they're panning the bench. I mean, nobody has canine as their front four incisors on the entire bench. There's not an incisor on that team. So if this is such a good thing, why are so many doctors afraid of ceramic implants?
I
Or
think I think it comes from top down. Nobody's talking about them. The entire profession is sort of focused in on titanium, and if you look at the lecture circuit, the main topics that are being talked about today are peri-implant disease. Everybody's talking peri-implantitis, what happens when you lose implants, how to build buccal bone, everything, how to fight these complications. But nobody's eyes, at least at the top, have opened up to the potential of ceramic implants. There's a fear. I mean, look back at what Carl Misch said in his conversation with you. He said that in the 70s and the 80s, the profession was doing fixed partial dentures, and they were sending him the full arches to do the implants. Him, Hahn, Tatum, they were all the heretics. They were crazy to be doing titanium implants. Nobody else was doing it. But now we look back and we see these guys as the pioneers, right? These guys started what we now see as dental implantology. And I think the same is true with all the guys doing the zirconia today. People look at us and we're like the crazies, using ceramics. Everybody else is putting titanium. These things are going to break. They don't integrate. You guys are going to have complications. All your implants are going to fall out. But I'm not seeing that. And across the board, we're all having tremendous success. And I look at it as in 10 or 15 years, we're going to look back at all the guys doing the ceramics today, and that's going to be the pioneers of the next phase of implantology, of the ceramic implantology, of something that's metal-free. So it's an interesting transition that's happening, but it's slow. It's slow adaptation. You know how dentists are. We're scared. We're scared to take the leap.
So I'm 20 years older than you. I'm telling you, in the 80s, the guys placing implants were called butchers, quacks, nuts. And some of these guys, their first time they had a case fail, the board would take their license away. I mean, it was like they got one strike and they were out. And I know dentists who were financially wiped out because they had done so many of these amazing subperiosteal ramus frames, all these implant cases. They treated so many people and were just legend in their community. And everybody just thought they were nuts. And then the first time something failed, periimplantitis, infection, whatever, their license gone. I
Yeah.
mean, it was really it was brutal and ugly back then. So brand name, does just one company make this? Are there multiple companies? What system are you using? What ones are available?
Oh no, the marketplace is getting flooded with these guys. The ones that I use are from Spain. It's a company called Oral Iceberg, and the implant is called CeraRoot.
What's the
Um,
www on that?
I believe it's www.ceraroot, CeraRoot.com. And then there's Z Systems, there's Zeramax. There's about, I think, close to 20 companies making ceramic implants now. Most of them are European based, but the big player in the game, and a round of applause to this company who's coming up with it. I think they're getting FDA clearance. If they haven't gotten it in the US yet, they're coming up any minute now, is Straumann. Straumann has the first, or is going to be the first large manufacturer to have a one-piece ceramic implant hit the market, and it's very exciting to see that.
So did they just was that a merger and acquisition? Because I know they just they wrote a big chunk of change, or they're trying to buy Megagen June 1st. We'll find out June 1st if Megagen takes that offer or not. Did they buy someone else or did they bring this to market in house?
No, this was brought in-house. It's been about 10 years of research and development for them, and it's their in-house product. It's got a ZLA surface, and it's looking really good. Having said that, the implant that I use, the CeraRoot, has been a phenomenal implant, and it serves my purposes and a lot of clinicians around the world. I think it's probably the number one ceramic implant out there, with success rates at 5 years that were at 98%, and at 10 years that are very similar. So we're getting equivalent success to what we have with titanium out of the ceramic.
And if Sarah Root's number one right now, who would be? What's the WWW on a number two or number three? Do you know any of those anymore?
I think the next one down would be Z Systems, which would be, and I'm guessing on the URL is Z dash systems.com.
And
Number
the Z would be for zirconium
correct, yeah.
because zebra just wouldn't make sense.
Unless we come up with a striped implant.
Okay, so when any I'm by the way, just for the listeners out there, I don't sign NDAs. I mean, every damn week someone sends me a deal and wants me to sign a non-disclosure agreement because they want to talk to me about this idea. And the reason I don't sign NDAs is because I've been doing this for 20 years. Anyone who's ever asked me to sign an NDA, I've never seen them bring it to market. Number two is 99% of all patents never generate enough money to pay for the patent deal. Most people, if they're smart, they just spend all their time and money getting a prototype, and then they get it working, and then they send you a sample. But the people who start with patent attorneys and non-disclosure agreements, they're never going anywhere. But whenever I talk to them, I always say, well, I got four rules. You got a new dental idea. Is it faster? Is it easier? Is it higher quality and lower cost? If you can meet all four of those, you're going to crush it. So I'm going to ask you, are ceramic implants faster? Are they easier? Are they lower cost? Are they higher quality? How many of them fingers can you, how many of those 4 points can you say yes?
I can hit all 4 points, which
All
is
right, well, let's hear it. Let's hear
I
it.
do it.
You're going to hit a home run?
I can hit a home run. So easier. with a one-piece implant, you see the abutment, so you see the position. So if I'm going in there replacing a central incisor, I'm placing an incisor that has a prepped margin already. I'm putting the tooth or the implant where the tooth was. There's no guessing as to position. If I got in the wrong direction, if I got wrong angulation, I see it right away.
So that means you're not doing a surgical guide then?
I use sometimes I use surgical guides, but most of the time on a single tooth, I don't need it. Right? I'm aiming to at a point between two other objects. We can drill that straight. But the great thing is that you see the final result. You see your preparation right at the time of surgery. So if you messed it up, you know it right away. It's not like the surgeon placed it and it's angled towards the buccal and because you would see it in a second. So it's much easier to get a perfect implant. Is it cheaper? So I find that in implant dentistry, the cost of the implant tends to be all about the same. It's the restorative side of things that really eats up a lot of the cost. You go into custom abutments, lab charges, at least in Canada, we're different than in the US, but it's huge to restore an implant. The cost of restoring a ceramic implant is the same as putting a crown on a tooth. There's no custom abutments, there's no abutment portions, it's just simple. It's just a dead easy impression. If you have CAD/CAM in the office, you just mill out an EMAX crown, and that's it. There's nothing else.
Do you have CAD/CAM in your office?
We do.
And did you go Dentsply Sirona or did you go E4D Plan Mecca?
We did the Plan Mecca route.
You wanted an open system.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, here, finish your other points, and we'll go back to CAD/CAM and E4D and Plan Mecca.
So the next point was, is it better? And really, the clincher in this is the soft tissue. I mean, sometimes people think of ceramic implants as metal-free, and they look at me and think, this guy's a holistic dentist, non-fluoride, kind of look at me as a crazy guy. But I'm not. I'm nothing to do with holistic. I'm a GP, and I believe in dentistry, and there's no hocus pocus here. But what I do believe in is that anything that we put in the mouth has to have a gingival response that is the same as teeth. And this is what we get with ceramics. I put a ceramic implant in. I know predictably that my probing depths around that implant are going to be 2-3 millimeters. The tissue is going to feel like it feels around a tooth. Not like with titanium where you can, and you know this in your practice, you probe around a titanium implant. It's very rare to get a probing depth of less than 5 or 6 millimeters. You take the probe out, or the hygienist take the probe out, and there's bleeding nearly every single time. The gingiva is just not happy around that material. And we get a much nicer result with the ceramics. So that's the third point. What's the fourth one?
Faster, easier, better, cheaper.
Did I hit all of them yet?
You did.
There you go.
So when you place this, and the abutment's sticking out, so so talk about immediate load versus if your abutment's sticking out, but you don't want to load it.
So it depends on our stability. If we have good initial stability, we can put an immediate temp on it, just like we do on titanium. Same healing protocol. A lot of my cases, I put an Essex appliance over it, which is going to protect the implant from any premature loading. And I put in a composite tooth in that Essex appliance. So that's my temporary.
Explain what Essex appliance is.
Oh, sorry. So an Essex appliance is a clear retainer, almost like an Invisalign tray. And I use that instead of a flipper or another appliance to replace the tooth. So it's an empty shell that sits over the implant, and you can't load the implant. It's protected. You can eat with it, you can function with it, you can wear it at night, your tongue's not going to go to the implant. You have a nice environment for that implant to remain immobile.
So what percent of the United States Canadian implant market right now do you think is ceramic? Do you think it's is it a less than 1%? Is it 2%, 3%? What do you think it is?
I imagine it's much less than 1%.
Much less than 1%.
Yeah.
And leave it to the next generation to be trying the new things. I really tip my hat for you to. I mean, it's just amazing that when that, when 99% of the market's doing titanium and you went ceramic. I just love minds like that. You know what I mean? Kind of like Southwest Airlines when they started, 100% of the airlines did the hub and spoke system. And Herb Kelleher was a lawyer, and he just said, "Well, that's crazy. I'm just flying direct. I mean, if I can't fly there direct, then we ain't flying there." And so by taking that hub and spoke cost system out of the equation, he had the lowest cost. One move, fly direct. All the other stuff was lesser stuff, like using the same plane, getting rid of meals, only serving peanuts. I mean, that was all secondary to just doing direct flights. So I really applaud your amazing mind that when 99% says we're going titanium and you jump on ceramic. Let me tell you just some of the comments I've heard on Dental Town. Well, if it fractures, it's just impossible to remove the implant.
Same as an ankylosed tooth. I mean, I haven't had that experience yet, but we found a way to remove titanium implants. Everybody said the implants integrate and it's impossible to remove and it lasts forever, but we unscrew them. So same thing about the ceramics. You can grab a hold of it, I'm sure, if the time comes, either with a forceps or cut a little bit of the cortical bone at the coronal part, and these implants are going to unscrew. Everything unscrews out of the head. None of these things last forever. So I think that it is a concern when anything fails. How do we retrieve it? But I don't see it being a problem.
So you're just I'm going to call you a rebel. The whole market went titanium. You went ceramic. The whole market, I think the United States got like 14,000 Dentsply their own CEREC systems in, and probably only 1,000 or 1,500 Plan Mecca E4Ds. And again, you went with the E4D. You saw everybody take it right, and you went left. Why did you go left with Plan Mecca's E4D instead of going right with Dentsply Sirona CAD cam?
Oh, Sharona's not going to like me after this answer. I mean, I wanted an open system. I've been scanning with the iTero system for the last almost 8 years. I was one of the first ones to start scanning with iTero.
Is that 3-shape?
That's iTero. No, iTero is Cadent, and now I believe Invisalign is the
Oh, and for scanning for trays.
scanning for Invisalign trays, scanning for crowns. We've been scanning for restorations for a very long time.
3-shape was Trios.
3-shape is Trios, correct.
And you went with iTero.
Yes.
Okay.
And there was a compatibility between the E4D and the iTero as well. It's a fantastic system. I think it mills out Emax better than the CEREC, which is a point of arguing. I know Christensen has spoken about that on numerous occasions.
What did Gordon say?
Said that the milling, the quality of mill, I believe, was better out of the E4D for Emax. Oh, by the way, he also, I believe the last 2 times you had Christensen on the podcast, I remember now, he was talking about the new evidence that's coming out about metal sensitivities. If you remember him saying that.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And how the metal sensitivities might be a cause for the increased rates of peri-implant disease that we're seeing. So it's interesting how this is coming out in the limelight at the same time as we're talking, and the group is talking about ceramic implants as the alternative to metals, as an alternative way of combating these increases.
Well, you know why as older guys think about metal sensitivity maybe more than the younger ones is when we were little and gold was expensive, and some dentists a shortcut was porcelain to base metal crowns. And if they were, it seemed to me, in my opinion, no studies, that if they were people of color, it wasn't an issue. But if they were Northern European, Scandinavian, Irish like me, English, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, that they would, their skin would pull the base metal into their gum and you get tattooing. I had never seen it on an Asian, Mexican, Brazilian, African, I had never seen it there, but it was a big error on a fair skinned Northern European person. So we've always grown up thinking, well, metal can have an effect on the tissue around it. And Gordon thinks that more people have metal allergies than they give on to, and that he does not believe that medical grade titanium is allergy free with all 7 billion people. That's kind of what you're getting at.
Absolutely. And I mean, you look at the material of these implants. We started off in the 70s and the 60s with commercially pure grade 1 titanium. But none of the implants today are that. I mean, we look at the manufacturers, most of them are grade 4 titanium, which has more levels of impurities. And it's not really titanium that people might be allergic to, it's the impurities. It's nickel, it's aluminum, it's the other stuff that's in it.
Base metals.
Base metals, correct. But then we have into these grade 4 or grade 5 titanium, we connect abutments that are quote unquote titanium as well, but it's a different grade of titanium. You got more impurities now. Now you got grade 23, Eli titanium. You got other things that create that galvanism too. You have corrosion, you have interactions of more stuff in the mouth. Then you have screws that are a different grade of titanium because you need those screws to be stronger because we're getting fractures. So you're creating 3 different types of titanium in one complex under the gums with bacteria, with saliva, with salts, with acids. Something's going to give, right? And we're not thinking about it in that way. We're just thinking titanium is the only thing that integrates. That's the only thing we can use.
And there's a whole nother universe we don't see. I love that. What was that movie back with? What was that movie? Was it where at the end of the show they said the universe and it all got down to the universe was in a pool bowl? Men in Black. Men in Black. Did you ever see the closing scene of Men in Black where they back out? Basically, it's an entire the whole Earth to the solar system to the universe ends up being a pool ball for these aliens, shooting pool on a table. And how many times have you taken apart an implant and you take out that cone and you unscrew that screw? And I mean, you can just smell it. I mean, have you ever seen and smelled that smell?
You can smell in the reception room when you take it off.
I know. So I mean, if you can just smell it, God only knows. There's probably a whole universe down there.
But like everybody smells it, but nobody does anything about it. Like we think it's healthy. That's what surprises me about us in general is that we see the problems. And again, I go back to Carl Misch, but he said, you don't ask questions. You see things, people tell you things, but you don't ask the questions. And this is what I'm starting to ask is, what are we doing about these things that we're seeing? We're seeing the periimplantitis, we're seeing the screws breaking, we're seeing the bacteria, we're seeing all these things. But the companies are trying to figure out ways of mitigating those complications, mitigating the risks. But as dentists out there, we're just popping in titanium one after the other, telling our patients this is going to last forever, this is the permanent solution, which it's really not, right? Because we're seeing, 25, 30% periimplantitis rates, fracture rates of 1 to 3% per year of screws. We're seeing a lot of complications. But we're not changing anything that we're doing. And here we have something that maybe doesn't correct every problem, but corrects a lot of these problems in a material that looks amazing and patients want.
So you think there's less peri-implantitis around ceramic implants?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And how much less? If you had to quantify it.
You know what? I honestly have not seen I've seen a few instances of bone loss and deeper pocketing around like perio patients, like giving up on brushing and there's problems around the ceramic implants. But all in all, I'm almost seeing a reduction to nothing. With the ceramic, we have a material that does not harbor bacteria. Titanium, bacteria gets attracted to it. Zirconia is not the same. And we have a one-piece design, so there's no bacteria that's trapped in an interface below the gum. And we know that even with the Straumann tissue-level implants, had a better tissue reaction than anything that's bone level. Once we put an implant at bone level and we bury it so deep to make it look better, we have bacteria sitting underneath the gums and brewing in there. And then you got the metal allergies and sensitivities tacked onto it. So I think just from a material and from a design standpoint, we're in a much better position with the ceramics into the future and seeing what's going to happen in a mouth, in a dirty mouth, in a mouth that doesn't get brushed, in a mouth full of bacteria. I think if I was a betting man, I would bet on ceramics 10 times out of 10 rather than betting on a titanium implant.
You mentioned the Carl Misch podcast a couple of times. I want to ask you the most controversial email I got regarding that podcast. There seems to be a big schism among implantologists to place implants in smokers or not. In Phoenix, the reality is, who are the people most likely to need implants? I mean, people that, not exactly, they weren't exactly hygienists, if you know what I mean. And so they're probably more likely to smoke and not brush and not floss. So kind of the behaviors that led, it's kind of their behaviors led to them needing these implants. So like Carl's brother Craig won't place an implant in you if you're a smoker. Carl will. What's the story with you?
I try to get them on a hiatus from smoking if I can.
A hiatus meaning a temporary
A
reason?
temporary stop, at least while the implant is healing, or at least at the beginning, so the wound healing around the implant site is improved. But we really see research out of Europe and the numbers out of Europe where they get same success rates as we do in North America as far as smoking goes. So smoking is not the ultimate mode of failure. But having said that, in my practice, where we're placing all ceramic implants, the patients that are coming and requesting it, and there's a lot of patients coming in and asking for these types of implants, they are more health conscious in general, so they're not the smoking type. But when we do encounter the smokers, I don't have an issue placing it as long as we get an understanding that this increases the chances of failure. So smoking does, to some degree, increase the likelihood of problems, and if they can buy into that, we're not as litigious as in the U.S.
Is there still more smoking, significantly more smoking going on in Europe? I mean, obviously, yes, in Asia, but is Europe still? Do they still smoke more? I mean,
I think you walk around in Italy or France, there's smoking all over the place. It's, I mean, everybody's learning about what happens when you smoke and the consequences, so I'm sure there's a reduction. But in terms of sheer numbers, I'm sure there's more smokers in Europe than
because if Straumann's been working on this for 10 years in Europe, they're out of what was Straumann out of Switzerland?
yeah.
I'm sure they got data on that too. So are you agnostic towards CBCTs, or do you like a brand there? I'm trying to think of what is the outlier CBC you went to. You probably picked one out of Korea or Japan that I haven't heard of.
No, I like the Plan Mecca.
So you're a Plan Mega fan. You got
I,
their CAD cam. You just like Helsinki, Finland, and
I
so
like Stinky Finland, but I like the products. I think the products are very well thought out, and most of them are open architecture. They're well designed.
what's the
Uh,
brand of the name of their CBCT?
it's Promax.
Pro Max. So you want to know my whole theory on Plan Mecca? I swear to God, this is my theory, and I'm sticking to it. When you go to Scandinavia, it is so cold for 10 months out of the year with almost no sunlight that the adaptive mechanism for the dentists in those companies, those people just work. I mean, when it's minus 30 outside and you only got 4 hours of sunlight, I mean, they just work. I mean, they're just, I think their environment just breeds workers. I mean, I remember when I was at Creighton, so many times I wanted to be a bad student, and we'd say, forget it, let's just go outside. But it was in Omaha, Nebraska, and you look outside and it's freezing drizzle and dark and gloomy, and you think, oh, well, might as well just go back to my room and study. But then, now I'm down here in Phoenix, like at Arizona State University. I don't know how those kids study. I mean, every day is a gorgeous day. Who would want to sit inside your dorm room and study? You'd have to be an idiot. But I think the whole world ought to move to Antarctica, and all we would do is just stay inside and work all day.
You should move to Toronto. We're like in the snow 9 months out of the year. This would be perfect working environment.
So you like the CBCT from ProMask from Plan Mecca. What about digital smile design software, implant planning software? Does that all come with the ProMask, or you?
No, I use for my digital smile design, and again, you've had Dr. Christian Coachman on the podcast as well not too long ago. And I use a piece of software that is very follows his protocol very well, and it's called Smile Designer Pro. Um, and it's a very, very intuitive, very smart application, compatible with pretty much all platforms. If you're a Mac user, an iPad user, you can use it pretty much on anything. I think Android too. And it's a great tool, and it's got a 3D module to it, so you can actually take your smile design and move it into the plan mecha, design anterior teeth based on the smile design. Really, really nice application. And most importantly, you get to show the patients what they're going to look like if they choose to go on with the treatment with various simulation options.
And talk about your online CE course, which thank you so much for doing that. You put up a course, Ceramic Dental Implants in Everyday Practice, which not only can you see on your PC, but you can see on your iPhone, your Samsung, your Droid. Thank you so much for doing that. Talk about that course.
So the course is up there, and it talks about ceramic implants. It kind of summarizes a lot of the points, a lot of the evidence of why I chose to pursue placing ceramic implants rather than titanium. Talks about the strength, talks about the osseointegration of ceramics, talks about the design of the CeraRoot implants, indications, contraindications of the material. So it really summarizes a lot of that in there. And this leads obviously to I mean, I do courses about ceramic implants. We certify doctors on placement of these ceramic implants here in Toronto. And it's a great gateway of people to kind of gauge how much interest they have in pursuing this technology. And then we have doctors coming in from all over North America, and we train them here. And invariably, everybody that attends the courses starts to place it because once you see the value that this brings to the patients and to the practice. Because I mean, this is a unique offering. Everybody's doing titanium nowadays, and to be able to offer a patient choice, and choice is a great selling tool for treatment because we don't want to tell the patient this is the only thing that you can do. And giving patients choice is a very powerful tool to be able to do more implants in practice.
And so basically, last year, 2015, was the first year the 150,000 general dentists. Well, in the United States, has 211,000 dentists. Humans are alive with a dental degree. It's probably about 125,000 general dentists, full-time, 32 hours or more. Probably 150,000 that just saw a patient last year, and about 35,000 specialists. So the oral surgeons and the periodontists last year, 2015, placed less than the general dentists. So that we are now in game-changing territory. But so the point I'm trying to make is that probably 4 out of 5 dentists listening to this podcast right now have never placed a single implant. So Dan, how do you, we got to walk up a stairway, and it's going to be a long stairway to get to where a guy like you is. This dental student, they've been out of school 5 years. They never placed one. What's the first step? You're members of the International Congress for Implantology. You got a fellowship of the Academy of General Dentistry, the International Academy of Dental Facial Aesthetics, fellow of the American Academy of Implant Dentistry. Go up 5 steps to the ladder from I've never placed one to I just placed one.
First thing I would do is take Carl Misch's continuum. That's the first thing I would do. I mean, you got to really go in there and learn about treatment planning. You got to know when to use an implant, how to plan for it, how to know if you got enough bone for one. You got to go through these steps before anything. And I think Carl has done this like nobody else in our profession. So, and you've gone through his continuum as well. And you know how invaluable that is.
And don't be the dumb guy in class who's asking questions where you knew the lecture today was over chapter 1 and you're asking, what is that word? How do you spell it? I mean, everybody else in the class read the chapter. Carl Misch's book. Read the damn book before you show up there. That book might take you a month to read. And if you read his whole damn book and then you go take his class, you're just going to get such a better learning experience. You know,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'd rather be hearing it for the second time when I go hear him, or and know at least know what he's going to think from A to Z before you walk in there and start seeing stuff. It just makes so much more sense, and it's street smart. I mean, street smart people learn with books and YouTube and Dental Town, and you know, crazy people have to fly across the country to learn one little thing on occlusion. You know what I mean?
That's
So
true.
read the book and go to Carl Mish's course. What walk up more steps.
And then it really is about experience. It's about doing. You got to start doing the surgeries. You got to start with the simple cases and build up. And then once you have that foundation of treatment planning, and you know how to graft and you know the basics, choosing an implant system or choosing a material becomes easy, right?
Okay, but
Because
I'm gonna back you up. You said pick a simple case. I'm assuming you're talking about a incisor number 8 on a supermodel with a high lip line who models for a living.
with a ceramic implant, absolutely not.
But what are simple cases?
So a simple case for me would be an upper premolar, right? With abundant bone. You just took out the tooth, you did a quick socket preservation. 3-4 months later, you have an upper premolar.
And
Or a lower.
explain why that's simple. Why is that a simple case?
It's a simple case because most likely you're far away from the sinus, so you're not nervous about that. You have no anatomical structures in the way. You're not worried about the mandibular nerve. The aesthetic demands on a premolar are usually less than they are in the front of the mouth. So if you place that implant a little bit deeper, a little bit shallower, there's prosthetic ways of correcting things. It's a comfort level that I think once you place the first few implants on premolars on the maxilla, even molars on the maxilla where there's abundant bone, you ease into it. You learn about the quality of bone. You learn about how to feel the drilling part. And then, I mean, placing the implant is really like drilling a screw in drywall. It really is not, a monkey could do it. A monkey could place an implant. It's all about the planning. It's all about preparing the site for the implant, maximizing soft tissue profiles. These are the things that are really important. Just performing the surgery becomes really just like drilling a hole. It's simpler. I think it's much easier to place an implant than to do an MOD composite. Right? There's more skill involved in doing an MOD composite than there is in placing an implant straight.
Okay, so we read Carl Mish's book, then we went to Carl Mish's course, and then we treatment plan upper bicuspids. What's the fourth step?
Well, the fourth step is once you treatment plan is to do it. But then, like I said, it's selecting what type of implants you want to be placing. You got to start becoming familiar with a system.
And what system are you going with? What is your bread and butter ceramic implant? CeraRoot?
So it's CeraRoot, correct. So that's the ceramic implant.
And where are they out of?
Spain, out of Barcelona.
Oh, Spain. Barcelona, Spain. God dang, that's beautiful. Have you been there?
Oh, it's a beautiful place.
That is just beautiful. There's only a few places you go lecture and you think, why the hell am I going back home? And Spain is just one of those places. Barcelona and Madrid. Barcelona nicer than Madrid because it's more Mediterranean.
I agree. It's the nicest city in Europe, probably, just all around.
And those people just don't know what stress is. I mean, that is the most laid-back society. Can I tell you my Barcelona story? I've been talking to these dentists. I said, they were talking about their hours. I said, well, what are your hours? And they go, what do you mean? I go, your hours. I mean, when do you work? And they go, you mean, I mean, I go in there in the morning. I know morning, but like what time? 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock? What time's your first patient? And they just like, oh, you Americans. He goes, I just wake up. I have breakfast. I read the paper. I have my coffee. And then I walk to work. And that's when I see my first patient. I'm not an American. I don't have a watch. I don't know what exact time it is. And I'm just like, wow, that is a different planet.
And then 2 o'clock rolls around and they take siesta. And then they go back to the office at 5 and work a couple more hours and go out for dinner.
Yeah, and then you go to civilizations like Japan and Korea and America and everything just rah, 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 rah. and people are, running 40 red lights because they don't want to be 3 minutes late to work. And you're just like, wow. Okay, so you're gonna go with CeraRoot.
Yeah, and then learning everything you can about that system. So you need to know everything about the implants you place, not just that this is the cheapest implant around, or this implant I got because so and so uses it, and that's the implant of the day. You really need to study. If you're choosing titanium, which a lot of people are choosing, you really need to know what kind of titanium these implants are. What are they good for? What are they not good for? You can't use the same implant for everything unless you're really good at what you do. So there's a lot of learning that happens as you're starting to use these implants to learn the particular systems. And then it's really practice, practice, practice. You got to do the surgeries. You got to get 20, 30, 50 implants under your belt to really, really get the hang of it. It's like everything else we did in dental school. We did 50, 100 composite surfaces before we really knew what bonding was all about. And you kind of start to learn everything really slowly through your hands.
I had to do 50 extractions and 75 amalgams, 15 units of root canal, and 15 units of denture. That was a dental degree in '87.
It was less for us at U of T. At the
Huh.
University of Toronto, we had less than that.
And my favorite deal is whenever I was on spring break, vacation, whatever. I always stayed and got a paid for job in the pain clinic, and you could pull your entire extraction requirement every time there was a school shut down for a week. Every time there was a spring break or a week off or whatever, you could do your. I mean, it was just amazing. I loved oral surgery the most. So that's my next question. She's sitting there driving. She's like, Dan, I like bleaching, bonding, veneers. I'm a cosmetic dentist. I don't know if I'm into blood and guts. What would you say to that woman?
Everybody chooses their comfort level. I think that implants today are bread and butter. It's basic dentistry nowadays. There are plenty of teeth coming in that are non-restorable, that are failed endos, cracked, fractured. Implant dentistry today is not something that's only reserved for the few. It's like you wouldn't say the same thing about, I only do DLs and ML resins, but I'm not going to prep a crown. You're a dentist. That's what you're doing. And we need to get trained at these things. These are basic. I consider these not the advanced cases, but the basic cases. Everybody should be doing them.
Well, I think that the most shocking thing you're saying is that, yeah, I mean, if I pulled all the dentists, or I looked at all the data on Dental Town, I mean, there's 4 million posts, and I thought, I built a word diagram on implants. Probably the biggest word in that deal next to the word implants would be periimplantitis. I mean, that's the biggest monster. And you're saying that you think this really is a massive reduction in periimplantitis. I mean, I've had 100 email requests to do guests on periimplantitis, treating periimplantitis. Do you think LANAP, the lasers, is good for periimplant? I mean, it's just, I mean, and that's like the top question, and that's the most shocking part of your presentation.
The whole profession, I mean, the implant manufacturers, everybody's focused on this because it's been a problem for a long time. If you take where implant dentistry started from, it started from full arch, Brennemark back in the 70s. It was all based on full arch restorations. There were no teeth, bacterial load was reduced. They were restoring smooth machined implants with screwed in restorations, and they had incredible success with it. And then we took those same principles that we used for the fully edentulous, and we tried to apply them to the partially edentulous, where we have way more problems, right? We are putting implants between teeth, we're losing bone, we're losing tissue, we're using rough implants now, which have surfaces that attract more bacteria. So these manufacturers are chasing their tails, trying to figure out ways of reducing these complications. And everybody's talking about how to reduce these complications. I mean, you see beautiful cases with titanium implants. I'm not saying that you can't get beautiful, healthy cases, but look how much work these guys are putting into these cases. Conditioning soft tissue to get emergence profiles, thickening tissue, multiple soft tissue surgeries, I mean, the list goes on as to what you need to put into a case to make it look like something you see on the podium. Whereas I can do very similar things with a ceramic implant very simply because it's all built into the implant. Like when you say easier, I can make a central incisor or a lateral incisor look as good and better than the top titanium guys very, very easily, right? With a very easy prosthetic protocol, restoring it very simply. I think everybody should be doing it.
That is truly amazing stuff. Any other things you want to talk about? Any other? What else has got you passionate in dentistry?
We got some courses running. So we run the Center of Excellence in Implant Dentistry here in Toronto.
But you spelled center wrong. You spelled it CENTRE. Don't you Canadians know how to spell it? CENTER.
In Canada, it's RE.
So when you say center, CENTRE, is that French?
I think it comes from the French. It surprises me too, but this is how we spell it.
Yeah. Center is definitely. Also, it's aesthetic is spelled differently around the world.
Yeah.
And you guys still say composite wrong. You say composite.
Tomato, tomato, potato,
So
potato.
so talk about the Center of Excellence in Implant Dentistry, which is www.ceimplantdentistry.com.
So my focus there has been to try and bring European style dentistry to North America. And we started a couple of years ago. I mean, I started off with the training for the ceramic implants with Doctors Oliva from Barcelona. And now it's evolved.
What's his name? Dr. Oliva?
Oliva, Oliva.
Oliva. What's his
Yeah.
first name?
There's two brothers. One of them is Josep, Josep, and he's a trained periodontist. And his brother Xavi, Xavi, and
Really?
he,
That's how you spell it? XAVI?
yeah,
How cool is that?
it's the short form for Xavier.
Oh, okay.
And he actually now is in Santa Monica, and he runs the U.S. operations of CeraRoot, in Santa Monica, California. So they are the two inventors of the system.
And what year was that?
When did they invent the system?
Yeah.
In the early 2000s.
Okay.
So we're at about, clinical literature, we have about 10 years of data about the CeraRoot implants. So we run courses for the CeraRoot certification, and we also bring guys, like I brought in a guy from the Ukraine, Nazary Mikhailchuk, and he did a course about... Naz, yeah.
Naz, I just podcast interviewed him. We were both lecturing in Johannesburg, and so funny story. So I started doing a podcast with him, and the only place we could find was a room by the bar, and we're podcasting him. And one by one, friends are walking by. So this one interview with Naz for the first half hour. By the time it's over, we got an orthodontist from Portugal, we got Naz from the Ukraine, we got a cosmetic dentist from Cape Town, and a prosthodontist from Greece. It was the most fun podcast I ever did. Oh my God. It finished at 2 o'clock in the morning. The only reason we stopped is because Ryan said, dude, we only got 3 more minutes of tape, so wrap it up in 3 minutes. Naz is so amazing.
He's an amazing guy. He was here in October. We did a 2-day course. It went over really, really well. Everybody loved it. The guy is at his young age. I mean, you look at me and you think I'm young. This guy has accomplished so much in the few years that he's been out there. Unbelievable.
And you did Benem Shakibi? How do you say that name?
Benem Shakabai.
Shakabai. We did a podcast with him too. Amazing man.
I just watched that, and he's here in May, early May, or middle of May, doing a course about the microscope sinus lift, so we're very excited about that. And another guy that you probably had on your podcast, Dr. Ziv Simon.
Ziv.
So he's coming to Toronto June 10th and 11th, doing a course for guided surgery and soft tissue enhancement. and we're really looking forward to that. That's going to be one amazing.
All you guys are class acts. You're all geniuses, but more important than all that, you're just really good guys who love to share.
Yeah,
And that just speaks so highly of our profession of dentistry. There's just so many good guys. I mean, these kids don't know that, when you're young and out of school, you could walk into any old man's dentist across the street. He ain't your competitor, and he's going to open the door and he's going to do anything for you. You know what I mean?
it's true.
Dentistry is very cool. So your CE implant dentistry, is it more like a curriculum? Is it more like 1, 2, 3, 4, or is it one program? Talk about the menu.
So the menu really is a hodgepodge of topics. So just whatever is we feel passionate about and we're hot about, we create a yearly menu of courses if you have it. Aesthetic dentistry, things like what NAS does, but with a really high emphasis on implant dentistry.
Okay, but I'm driving to work right now, and I'm thinking, okay, I don't know about all that stuff, Dan. I just want to get from I've never placed one. I just want to be able to place one. I just want to go from 0 to 1. What course would you take at the ceimplantdentistry.com website?
I wouldn't start there. Our courses are really for those that have had some experience with implants. I wouldn't start with me. As much as I want to say come and take everything on my menu, I would say you really got to start with the basics. And I think so many people are doing, like the Mish Institute. There are so many institutes that are doing this so well. Mike Picos is doing an excellent job. There's a lot of great education out there for the basic stuff. I don't need to do it.
Are you friends with Picos, Mike?
Yeah, I know Mike.
I talked to him. I did a podcast with him like a year ago in New York. If he's a friend, email him and say come back on and talk about his 0 to 1, his implant training for none to 1. Review
Okay.
that course. That'd be a good follow up to yours. Have yours come out there? You just said that. The next one be Pico saying how do you go from 0 to 1? Because I'm a firm believer that it's like on my morning run, the hardest step is the first one out the door,
Absolutely.
and then the last mile home is just a gimme. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it is. It's a very difficult thing
Can
to.
you ask Picos that?
Sorry?
Can you ask Mike that?
Yeah, I'll be in touch with him. I'll get him to connect with you. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be a great follow up here. Okay, so then what else has got you passionate?
Family. Family is always my getaway from work, right? So that's passion. But dentistry in general has got me really really hodged up. I mean, the ceramic side of it is being one of the few guys in the world. Right? I mean, you look at how many dentists are really out there, and being one of the few is an amazing place to be in. Right? It's humbling to be doing what I'm doing, and when I look at the future of how things are changing year to year since I started doing this, there's amazing opportunities out there.
Did Shakopee and Naz convince you to go to the microscope side of the world?
Absolutely,
Really?
absolutely.
So you got a microscope?
Oh yeah, I do.
You did not mention that. You only got a minute. What or a couple minutes left. Tell us about your adventures into microscopy.
So I use a Zeiss Pico, and
You use a what?
A Zeiss Pico scope.
Piko?
Pico.
Pico.
Yeah, and I've been using that for nearly all my surgeries. I do everything under the scope now, and I can honestly say these two guys and the Microvision group have been instrumental at bringing the scopes into like general practice. But it's an indispensable tool at this point. Once you see what you haven't seen before, you can't work without seeing it again. And it's unbelievable the amount of detail, and unbelievable how humbling it is when you see your old work under the scope and you realize what kind of crap you do without magnification. So yeah, it's a complete practice changer. Is it of all the tools in the practice, we look at things, what's the ROI on things? Does a microscope have any return on our investment? I don't know. I don't think I make more because of the scope, but I think that the scope makes me do what I do so much better.
Okay, on the microvision group, there's a www.congress.microvision.group. There's a Dubai microvision group. Is there just a www microvision group, or is it just microvision group?
I think Microvision Group, I think they have their site. I know that their Congress in Dubai, April 7th and 8th, which probably just passed. Um, and but they should have their site, and they're always on Facebook. I mean, all the members are always posting their cases and the amazing transformations on Facebook.
Did Naz and Shakabi lecture at that microvision in Dubai?
Yes, yeah,
Yeah, it is a the easiest way to increase your quality. I mean, go from naked eye to loops. Go the reason oral scanners. Every lab will tell you the average case is a 5% remake, but if they go to oral scanning, it's not even a half of a percent because when you oral scan and you see your impression on the screen, 40 by a big old screen, you're just like wow. And I think magnification endodontists, they drop a scope and they looked in their finished canal right before they obturate. They're like, wow, there's a missed canal, or God, look at all the crud in that one canal, or just seeing is such the easiest way to increase quality.
absolutely. And I think without magnification, we're really working blind.
And that
Uh,
is why I did not let Stevie Wonder place my implant.
that's a good, unless it was guided. If it was guided, we'd probably do it.
Well, hey Dan, I think the world of you, dude. I mean, I'm your biggest fan. Thanks so much for putting an online C course. I just applaud the way your amazing mind works, and you're just going where they ain't. I mean, everybody's in titanium, you went ceramic. Everybody's going dense place Sorona, you went E4D. You just, I'm just pretty sure that in your mind, if it doesn't make sense to you, you just don't go there. You do not follow the crowd.
Absolutely,
So that
absolutely.
must make it very difficult for your wife to manage you. She did she have to get like an electric shock probe or something since you're not used to
Oh,
following people?
I'm so much different at home. I'm more passive. I'm like, I just sit back and relax.
You're
Howard,
yes.
it was great. It was great chatting with you. This was an amazing experience. Thank you for inviting me.
And tell I've been telling everybody this. I told Straumann this. I told CeraRoot this. I told everybody. There's great books for learning implants. Like Carl Misch's book. There's great onesie courses, like an hour an implant here, an hour an implant here. But still, nobody has come out with like a 25 to 50 hour A to Z implant curriculum from diagnosing to single root to just from an A to Z. And I would if I own CeraRoot, if I own Straumann, if I own Novak, or if I in that, I create the first online university at Dental Town and put it up tomorrow, and we got 210,000 members. I mean, because these kids are sitting there on their iPhone and they're taking this online CE on the Dental Town app, but they're throwing it on their Apple TV. So they're sitting there at home in their favorite chair with surround sound, and that's you just got to make it faster, easier, better, cheaper. And if those CeraRoot brothers and if you put that up there and just said, look, I'm going to take you from not even knowing how to and the CBCT, oh my God, how do you read that? That I mean, it'd take 5 hours to explain that. I mean, I still, when I look at my CBCTs, at least once a month, me and my two associates have no idea what we're looking at. We're always sending these files to Dale Miles saying, "What the hell's that?" And yeah. So tell Joseph and Chavi and yourself that I think it's going to be the most profound marketing because guys like Brandmark and Mish, they spent their whole life going from convention to convention to convention, their whole life. And now you can reach that big of an audience in an hour on the internet. I mean, there are 2 million dentists, and there's only a billion people in North and South America. There's more than a billion just in Africa. There's a billion two just in India. There's a billion three just in China. There's 7 billion, 300 million people with 2 million dentists. And to just just knock out a category killer. How many hours do you think it would take to explain implants A to Z? I mean, you think you could do it in 5, 10, 20, 30, 50? How long do you think it'd take?
We could do it in 50 to 70 hours. I think that breaking it down into manageable chunks, just like the continuums over a weekend. Let's do it. Let's do Dental
Do
Town and
it.
us, and we're going to put it together. I am open to that.
And
I
I'll
think
tell you what, once you've watched online CE on your big screen TV with surround sound with a beer in your hand and a bowl of popcorn, you never want to go to the damn dental convention again. You know what I mean? And but it also depends on the beer. None of that Canadian stuff. We're talking about real Budweiser from America.
no Molson?
Okay, Dan, thank you again
Okay.
for giving me an hour of your life and for all that you do on for dentistry and for Dental Town. And you're just an amazing man. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Howard. Thank you.